All right, I'm calling the meeting to order for January the 10th. Please rise to the invocation and pledge of allegiance.
Father, we thank you for this evening, Lord. We thank you for this new year. Father, we just ask that you bless each and every person here in one part forward in this country, Lord. Lord, we thank you for keeping us safe, Father. We just ask that you lead us and guide us tonight, Father. Give us your wisdom, Lord. Send us your Holy Spirit, Father, to rest all around us. Father, and guide us through this meeting, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated.
Madam Clerk, you can get a roll call.
Councilmember McGuire. Here. Councilmember McCure. Here. Councilmember Taylor. Here. Deputy Mayor Bernard.
Here.
Mayor Anderson.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I'm liking the new official time clock back there.
We knew you would.
All right, first up, we have the consent agenda, the minutes from December the 13th, 2021. Have a motion? Motion to go approve the minutes from December 13th, 2021. Do we have a second? We have a second. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember McGuire.
Yes.
Councilmember McCure.
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you very much. Item number 5, we have a discussion of the ERC capacity fee calculations. See my name there. So, if you'll remember, not too long ago, we had a discussion that came before this council that changed the ERC rate, basically the amount of gallons per ERC, which had a drastic impact on the residential and commercial connection fees or capacity fees. So we've had a couple of businesses, thankfully, that have wanted to connect with cities. They've gone through this process and gained quotes. Those quotes came back quite a bit higher than they used to be. They had reached out to me individually. I'm not sure if some of these fine folks that I don't recognize are here for that. Okay, I see one person back there. But basically, I think it's just something that we need to take a look at and potentially go back to what it was. I know that we do have a new rate study that's going to be getting done this year. Is that correct, Jerry?
It's scheduled yet?
It's not scheduled yet. Staff has gotten all the information. I just have to compile it and get it out to Florida Rural Water.
Okay.
So I guess from year to year, we can shake this out a lot more because they'll be back to look at the rates and then we'll task them to look at that again because we saw that. Go ahead.
Yeah. So you can see the first one here, the laundromat, under the current rule at the 159 gallons per ERC, it would have came in at $216,000 compared to the old rate at $107,000. So it's quite substantial. I think it would have a detrimental impact on connecting new businesses to the city system. So we definitely don't want to discourage businesses from coming to Avon Park. And I believe one of those businesses is here to potentially speak on behalf of their connection. Move back. Would you like to speak, give your thoughts on the new rate versus the old rate?
Yes.
Sure. Please give your name and address in the microphone. Here.
So obviously, my address is 947 Lake Angelo Drive, Avon Park.
Yes, sir.
Do you need anything else?
Are you associated with the laundromat?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm the owner.
Okay. All right.
So it's just, I just wish there's something y'all can do. I mean, I feel like I've been penalized for opening a business. I understand that the impact fee, it goes towards, it's supposed to go towards some water plant thing or something.
Sure. So it's a capacity fee. Gary, would you like to explain?
Yeah, I was going to explain to you. Well, and so basically, the water treatment plant, the wastewater treatment plant costs, as you may guess, tremendous millions and millions of dollars. And they have, we call it capacity, basically a room for the new customers that connect to it, to discharge to it. And so as they fill that plant up, we have to plan and start moving another one because DEP is going to make us at 80% start planning, and at 90% we have to stop taking new customers and start building a new treatment plant, whether it's water or wastewater. And so what all cities and counties and all governments that have these facilities throughout the country, what they do, and it's not something you need to do in Florida, is they charge what's called capacity fees, some call connection fees, some call impact fee. Really what it is to reduce the burden of having to pay for that treatment plant to be built. Now, why do we do that? Because if you have to go out with bonds to pay for that plant to be built, the bonds are paid for by the general taxpayer, whether you get water and sewer or not. Those bonds are paid for with taxes. So we commit water and sewer stuff to it, but the bonds are paid for out of the general fund. The city can choose to pay it out of utility, but it's not required. So it really makes it a little on the unfair side to some ratepayers. They're going to pay for a company to open a business in the city and then enjoy having capacity treatment plants. They're paying for it. Now, that's not to say that you can't take some of it away. That was done in 2018 to 2020. I'm sorry, 2008 to 2010, when the housing market crashed, the commercial market crashed. The cities were doing whatever they could to try and encourage growth, and so there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to do it by ordinance, because everything we do in this has to be by ordinance. It's a constitutional issue that we're allowed to do it, but we have to do it the right way. Otherwise, it can become a tax. We have to refund it. So those are the important points. Does anybody have any questions on how that's put together?
Maybe the reason we increased it because I thought we discussed the fact that we were way underfunded as far as our charges, and basically the minimum increase that we were going to bring us up to basically we want to have natural double growth instead of future growth. I thought that was the reason why we thought the future where it is. I understand it's a substantial increase. I thought we did this just to catch up where we should have been instead of.
Yeah. So in that discussion, what we had discovered is that we had not brought in, I think we brought in somewhere around $2 million. I could be wrong, but it was a very low amount compared to what we'd actually need. So as we approach our capacity, we are far outpacing our capacity versus actually bringing the money in to cover that cost. We will never get enough businesses that's going to pay for that cost by the time that we need it. So the reality is we're going to have some form of grant in order to build a new plant. Here, it has to happen. So under these current rules, to try and pay for it, you basically guarantee that other than someone like a Newport, you're probably not going to get new businesses that come to Avon Park. Now, that doesn't mean that they can't repurpose old buildings, but if they're changing the use, they're in the same situation anyways. So if you take an old warehouse and turn it into a laundromat, then going for that same fee. So
one thing I would say about that, this is your decision. We just have to change the ordinance to do it. But my comment would be, let's make sure that the taxes benefit to the city that we're going to get from the businesses are going to exceed in a reasonable amount of time what we're giving away from not getting the impact fees necessary to build a plant and put that load on taxpayers.
well, sir, since we have you here, the old fee was roughly $107,000. The new fee was $216,000. Would the $216,000 have stopped you from opening one tonight?
So for sure, yes. I mean, yeah, I mean,
Would the $107,000 stop you from opening one tonight?
I'll have to think about it. There are other towns around, and I have what other towns have charged, and you all are just way out of line. I mean, and this treatment plant's never gonna come, but you said it might come through grants.
It will come eventually. Eventually, we're going to outpace. It's the question of how is it going to get paid for? Is it going to get paid through incrementally by businesses such as yourself coming to town, or is it going to get paid through other funds?
Yeah, I mean, I've been looking at other areas. I mean, Sebring, they don't charge. I mean, their fee was like $7,000, a little over $7,000.
Now, were you buying an existing building at that point, or?
No, this was just to open a laundromat with the machines.
And 7,000.
Yes, that was it.
Did you
I've
get,
got Avon Park, Sebring, or your Sebring, like Placid, Arcadia, or Chiller, surrounding towns.
Mhm.
But I mean, it's just ridiculous. I mean, I'm just gonna have to think about it still. I hope something can be done. I hope y'all will. It's insane. I mean, really.
well, I'd be interested to know how it is that Sebring is quoting 7,000, whatever. Then they're quoting, cutting it in half to 107.
Well, they said they didn't have an impact fee.
I see.
So,
I wouldn't be shocked if that was true.
But it's something that we definitely need to find out for sure. So, I'm assuming you called their water department.
Yes, Lamar Young.
Yeah.
Okay. So he's the one that's gonna be the manager. So
Okay.
check on all of these.
So in the process of this workup, did we happen to see what the other towns are charging?
I did not.
I didn't even.
It would be worth seeing how they go about it. If, what rationale are they using to charge 7,000 versus our 107,000?
We both had it written down in the.
They call it like a fee, and it's based on, the amount of washers.
Sure. Understood. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the council while you're here?
Just do what you can.
Okay.
So, thank you.
I have a
Absolutely.
question for you, sir.
Yes,
You say you was looking at other cities
yes.
and you said Sebring didn't have one and all the other cities was cheaper.
Right.
What was so special about Avon Park that you wanted to come here and open one here when everybody else was cheaper or didn't have one? What was so special why you wanted to come and open one?
Well, I thought
Because I'm not familiar with a lot of the laundromats here, but I would
Because I
have thought
thought
that we
since
had.
taxes are cheaper here, rent would be cheaper here, and so the rent is reasonable here, and then you go to Sebring, it's like $4,000. So
So you was looking at living in a place that's cheaper to live.
I already live here.
Oh,
But
okay.
I'm talking about to put a business,
Oh, the business.
you know, to check where it be, because I thought taxes are cheaper here than Sebring, so I thought rent would be cheaper here.
I see. I see.
So, and that's kind of true. It's like $4,000 if we want to check, but
Versus what you're doing.
excuse me,
Versus what rent you're doing.
25.
Very good. Any other questions for us?
Mayor,
Yes.
Mike Vasquez is on Zoom from 1600 some here.
Okay. Sir, we thank you very much for your time.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Mr. Vasquez, can you hear us?
I can hear you. There's a little bit of an echo. I hope you can hear me.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Oh, very well. Well, thank you for having me. Certainly appreciate the opportunity to speak to everybody. Just wanted to give a little bit of background. I'm the owner of 1600 Sun Pure Road, which is a building that had been, for the most part, really abandoned for about 13 years. It had been dark. We recently purchased it, and I hope everybody agrees, but we certainly think we did a nice job cleaning it up and making it a tenable office. We hope to put tenants in there or potentially do something for our own use, but at this point, we're hoping to put it for lease and see what concept might go in that use. The building has in the past had a well and septic service. It still does. Those have been neglected, so they'll obviously need to be put back in service. And before we spent the money, we certainly like the opportunity to connect to the city instead of well and septic. In the particular case, the quote that was given to us for impact was significantly higher than we thought it would be. Still certainly something we want to do, but I certainly hope the council understands that the additional costs that we take on is actually higher than the impact fees to be able to do a lift station and do the connection points to the building that's already existing. So we certainly would like to see it come down. My opinion versus other markets that we've connected to and paid impact fees, the rate is significantly higher than what we have seen by about 250%. That's not necessarily a barrier for me. For me, it's really just a matter of what's the best use of our capital and how does that building get the most amount of growth that we could have out of it. But in comparing to other cities or areas that we've worked in, the impact fee was significantly higher. So that was a little bit challenging. But certainly we'd like to, figure out whatever formula you're going to use. And if it can make sense for us, we certainly would like to connect to the utility and then see that building get used rather than sitting there rotting as it was.
Sure. You purchased this building recently, I'm assuming?
I think we, I want to say we closed on it in March or February. Since then, we've spent a lot of time just cleaning it up and hauling off dumpsters full of stuff. We've replaced all of the mechanical. We spent about $60,000 or $70,000 on brand new AC units and been testing everything else. Now we've got it recently listed with a broker and they're going to put it for sale or for lease. It doesn't have water service yet, so we certainly know that we can't put a tenant in there until we have water service. So we would just like a plan that gets us there sooner than later, or we have to fix the well. And I think by the time we spend the money fixing the well and the septic, we wouldn't really be looking at re-spending again to put a lift station in and connect to the city, of course.
Understood. Do you have any questions for Mr. Vasquez? No. Mr. Vasquez, we thank you for your time.
Yep, thank you. I just to touch on, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to interject on the last gentleman that was speaking, and I certainly feel for where he's coming from. I'm in the coin operated business myself. We operate large format arcades. I've owned about 25 or 30 coin laundries, so ironically know the business pretty well. What he was looking at from Sebring, unfortunately, they charge a per machine count as an occupational license, or now all the cities call them tax receipts. That's not an impact fee. If the building he already has a 2-inch service, then they're not charging an impact fee at all, and they're just repurposing it because it was a multi-purpose type strip mall or something like that. It's not a fair comparison in defense of the city, if you will. I don't know that $100,000 is a good number either. I'm not making an argument one way or the other, but I certainly would like to see Avon Park continue to grow. And I think understanding the differences may help settle that in, and hopefully there's some mechanism that gets him to open a coin laundry there instead of another city.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your insight.
Thank you again, everybody, for your time.
Thank you. All right, so back to the council. The question is how to go about this, and do we want to look at some sort of a study, or do we want to for now go back to the old rate until our new study gets implemented at some point this year?
I'd just like to make one comment. I know there's an owner of the city that most of us may know that owns a few laundry mats. And I remember that when he went into the business, before he did, they were, years ago, they were waiving the impact fees because it's so growth. And then when he started up his businesses, switched around, maybe not this price, but substantial increase.
It's what the old price.
And basically was, thought at that time it wasn't fair that, somebody opened up one years ago, make zero of it, at the time. So
I remember that argument well.
okay, so then you know what I'm talking about. So it's definitely something that we need to come up with an idea that's being fair to everybody, as well as trying to bring business to the city, which I think is very important. But like I said, the only thing we have to consider is what's fair as far as future growth. And I don't really want to make a decision tonight, wait for the study.
I think if you look at some typical size cities in the rural state area and come up with some rates, but I'll just simply say that there are a lot of people just like you that kept the capacity for 10 years the same, and that yours was abysmally low. Let me remind you that the study actually showed that in order for you to go whole, you would have to charge a much higher rate than you went with, because that was replacement cost new. When you replace the plant, let's say 5 years from now, 10 years from now, this could be the cost at that point. Well, you wouldn't even pay for it today. What you're doing is you're paying for whatever the cost of this plant was when you built it, which is 20 years ago. So you're already going to end up 30 years behind. It sounds like they work this way. But it's your, like I said, it's your decision once again, if you want to do that, because it's just allocating impact on who you want to allocate the impact on.
Well, as I said before, we saw how much money that we had collected over the time period. And not only were the funds spent in places that they probably shouldn't have, but that we're never going to be able to have enough business to get to that number. Not even close. So, I see it as like, for instance, in business, I buy a product that I think I'm going to be able to sell for X price. Guess what? The market collapsed, and now I'm stuck with it. So I have a choice. I can hold to that price where I want to make my profit come hell or high water to get me where I originally intended to go, and I'm going to sit on that product till kingdom come, or I can lower the price that it'll actually move and get on with my life. So I think that in this case, we're pretty much dooming ourselves to not have business development other than residential. Residential is still a fair deal, especially compared to other communities, but for business.
The point of growth is income to the city. That's not the point. So that's up to you. But that's the point, that should be at least do an analysis as to whether doing this very low impact fee is that's going to will be paid for by taxes, or whether you still end up having to pay a lot out of pockets of residents.
Yeah, so at our current rate that we have, as you had previously said, it's still not going to get us where we need to be. The rate that we actually needed to charge to pay for it fully was far higher than what our current rate. So no matter what, you're going to be shelling out a lot of money. And as I said before, if it doesn't come by a grant, it's not going to come. That's the truth of it.
What you need to do is the utility department's going to have to keep track of who they're connecting and not obligate the city to connect more people with the treatment plant can handle it. Then you will stop with at that point, because you won't be able to connect them without water and sewer. So that will get into that. And then it'll be that plus whatever it takes to get the financing, then build the treatment plant, which is 2 to 3 years.
Sure.
So we will have real people get.
Well, if it were up to me, I would say that we go back with our old rate until our new rate study is done. Hopefully, we can have some more insight into the new rate study that is done, that we can hopefully implement some more, let's say, realistic numbers.
Mayor, let me ask you this question.
Yes,
If
ma'am.
we do go back to the old rate, who's gonna pick up the difference?
The same city that will pick up the difference at our current rate. Like I
So
said,
is this
our
gonna be
current
the
rate,
residents?
well, ultimately, it's everyone who pays into the taxes, period. It's gonna be businesses, residents, grants, everybody.
So why is it that we can't do a study on it? Why do we have to make a decision tonight?
We don't have to make a decision on that.
Yeah,
I'm just
so why
saying that- So I sat here through the other study, which is the difference, right? So,
Well, I don't think we need a full-blown study from the Rural Water Association like we did before, but I think we can basically find what other people are charging and maybe see if, some middle ground, like maybe the ERCs. Because some of the ERCs do look low to me, like 159. But, that's not, that's what they do, that's what the engineers do. They figure all that out. But if you go back to the old rate, which was above that, that's going to be, you're going to.
I think I agree with that. I think that's a better, quicker way for us to come to a conclusion, is do a comparison first of the cities within this county, maybe the next county, and then come up with a decision to where we can come up with something that may, like you said, may never meet our needs or our needs in the future, but at least will be favorable to bring new business into the city. So it's like what you're saying is, we're never going to get enough no matter what we charge unless we double what we're charging now.
Yeah.
Even then we might not happen. So why don't we just try to be fair and make a quicker decision by coming up and find out what the other cities, the county are making, maybe surrounding areas, and then compare that with our rate, and then come up with a conclusion, because it seems like, I feel like you want to be more business friendly instead of trying to make, bring in money that we probably going to need someday, but we're not going to make it anyway. So I see that. I think Jerry's got a great point. I see a good point. We need to be fair and we need to be business-like, we need to be business investment friendly. So I'm willing to wait for that promise to come back from them and the staff and see what exactly the other cities are actually charging in comparison, and then go from there. That's what I think that'd be a perfect fast idea.
Any other comments,
Yeah, I'm
questions?
gonna agree with that, as long as we revisit this quickly, don't just let it sit.
That'd be a quicker way.
Anything else?
Make a motion.
I don't think in this case, we would like that, we're simply directing the staff to get us that information.
We'll have it ready for the next meeting.
Awesome.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mr. Vasquez would like to say something else.
Mr. Vasquez.
Yes, thank you. I just had a comment that you asked for. I guess the only thing I would ask is, considering that time is of the essence for some and maybe all involved, if there's even a mechanism that you would be comfortable putting in place that says you're going to charge today's rate. In my case, I think it was $15,000 or $16,000, and that would be the limit. And if when your study is done, if you reduce the rates, there would be a credit back to us. I'd even be willing to go on a limb and just go with whatever the rate is, just to save time and not be on well service. So if there's something there that's a good balance for the city that leaves you comfortable that we're going to pay a rate that's equitable to other people, that would be fine for us. I do agree that you kind of have to be in kind with your neighboring cities. Hopefully there are some economies of scale that come as Avon Park develops much larger capacity. There should be some economies of scale that start to reduce the cost of a water treatment plant, however that is, whether it's 1 million gallons a day or 20 million. I don't know what those numbers are, however they work, but I'm sure at some point that scaled up economy will give you some benefit. But there is something to be said for giving away the razors to sell the blades and to see the city grow and get all of the other tax revenue that comes with it. Giving away the service at a rate that is subsidized through other taxes, long-term probably still offers the growth that the city will have net positive results for having more businesses and residents there.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you very much for coming.
I just have one question for whomever gave the quotes on this. So our current fee, it's his current quoted fee, $21,859.
So I've had several conversations with him when the calculations were initially done by the utility department. They calculated them based on the residential rate of 250, which is the rate you see in the middle.
Right.
If you're going with the 159, ERC, his rate would be 21 plus change.
So the commercial, our current commercial ERC rate is 159.
Correct.
Yeah. That's what he would be quoted.
Correct.
Right. So the current fee to him would be $21,859.
Correct.
Right. I don't see any reason why we couldn't guarantee him that it won't be more than that, right?
I can guarantee it's not gonna be more than that, because in order for it to be more than that, we need a formal study, like the one that Florida Rural Water Association did previously. We're not gonna do that, and we're not revisiting that. We're just simply saying, we're gonna look at some of the area utilities, and it's simply that Florida Rural Water has another spin line as far as the 159 being long. I did talk to somebody there, but it wasn't the head person. If they decide that it's, it really should be 250. I'll look at the study that says 159 NRCs. But that's something we can look at, but it's not going to go up because that would require a study.
Okay. So to his question, would it be inappropriate for us to go ahead and guarantee him that it's not going to go up, and that if we lower it through the course of these conversations, that we get that credit?
I always, the way it stands today, we're not, it's not going up. But if you did a study a year from now, that build project, that would be totally different. But if you take the 21,859, you would be obligated to keep 21,859, even if you change the ordinance, because the ordinance is what establishes your authority to charge it. So he would be wise to wait and see what comes out of this before he makes a decision to pay it.
I see. So Mr. Vasquez, we cannot guarantee you that we will lower the rate for you or give you a credit back as you had requested, but we can guarantee that the rate will not be more than $21,859.
I see. Okay. Well, I certainly appreciate the consideration, and we'll decide as this conversation moves on, and hopefully the council makes a final decision. Thank you.
Now that guarantee is not, the rate of our capacity fee will not go up. So if there was a
Okay.
miscalculation on your rate, then it could go up, and I think staff do that, and you probably did it properly, but I'm just to say, I'm clarifying, we're not gonna increase the rate. But if an error was found, then that would be, that's, we have to revisit.
That's what I meant to say.
Thanks.
Yep, okay, thank you.
Just to ask you, Jerry, so if the decision is made to go back, this is gonna take an ordinance and 2 readings? So he needs to know, I guess, that it would be at least minimum 3 meetings.
Yes.
All right, is there anything else on this topic? Seeing none, on. Item number 6, we have the Board Department of Corrections Interagency Public Works Agreement.
The warden got home at about 3:30, said he couldn't make it. They had an audit team show up there. And Jerry, as you see in here in his email, and he can speak for himself, what he found in there.
Yeah.
I did get a hold of Warden on Friday, and he was passing it on to his legal. He said he hadn't heard anything back, so you may want to wait. I can put it on the next agenda. He'll be here. Jerry, if you
Or
want.
approve it subject to that clause either being taken out or or bring it back to you. I mean, at least if they take it out, then it'll be approved at that point. We don't have to wait till next meeting to get it done.
So we could make a motion to approve changes that Gary had requested.
I do know one councilman got home and said they were going to have some questions with the warden, so I don't know if he wants to wait.
Are there any questions of the council?
I actually have a lot of questions.
I do too.
Okay, so are you saying that you would like to
I would
wait?
like to
on it?
wait so we can get a person on here.
That be with everyone?
One question is, are they ready to go to work or are they still
No, the inmates ready to come out and work.
All right, we'll push it off to the next meeting. Item number 7, we have purchase of a wheel loader. Utilities manager, Rick Reed.
These 2 pieces of equipment, are they to be budgeted this year? One of the pieces of equipment replaces 28 years old, the other piece of equipment is about 18 years old. Backhoe is the after-hour service we use for repairing breaks on water and sewer.
Pull that microphone closer to you there, Rick.
I'm sorry, can you hear me?
Yes.
The current track loader we're using now is 18 years old, and if it rains, it doesn't start, so it's not very dependable. It's a smaller one, the 2 that we have. We get in between houses, tight in areas. The other piece of equipment is at the wastewater plant, which is a wheel combination backhoe and loader. It's 28 years old. We really need something for those employees that are doing the K, loading the K, cleaning up the drum beds, et cetera.
Still a budgeted item.
Yes, it was already approved.
Do we have any questions for Rick on this?
When you purchase a new, I'm sorry, when you purchase a new piece of equipment, the old piece, what do you usually do with it?
It goes to auction
Okay.
unless another department can use it, but in this case,
So
yeah.
I wasn't sure if you scrapped it, if that would be. the
Oh, no,
thing.
man, it goes to auction. It's all-
I think by statute, we have to auction everything, right?
But we can actually give it to another agency. State auction.
Right. But we can't just sell it on the open market.
One question for you, Rick, if you don't mind, back on both of these 2 items here. They are budgeted, if we were to approve them, how long would it take to get these items? Do you have any idea?
Yes, sir, about 3 months. Cat said that they're pretty much on the ball right now, and that's not the only company out there that's able to give me a delivery date.
Whoever came up with the figure on these 2 items, sure got pretty close. For the budget. That's a good job.
That was great.
Thank you.
Any other questions on specifically the Caterpillar 908 and wheel loader? Seeing none, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to approve item number 37, please.
We have a second.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further questions? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Councilmember McCure?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. Item number 8, it's the other piece of equipment, it's a hydraulic mini excavator. Do we have any questions for Rick specifically on this?
No.
Is there a motion?
Well, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Reed, the same thing gonna happen to this piece of equipment as well? It's gonna be auctioned off?
Yes, we have all of our equipment auctioned off.
Okay, my next question is, I heard you say, I picked up on a key word you said on the other piece of equipment. You say when it rains, you can't even hardly get it to start.
And that's this piece of equipment. I thought we were talking about both. I apologize. I was talking about
Okay, you
this
said
piece.
that's this piece of equipment we're
Yes,
talking
ma'am.
about. So my question to you is, when we purchase these brand new pieces of equipment, where are they gonna be located? Where are they gonna be held at, in a field, or are we gonna put them in a building? How does that work?
It goes on a trailer. It's on a trailer ready for after-hour calls. So it's a
Uh-huh.
public works trailer.
So they're not put
For some
inside of
reason, I
a,
don't know if the mechanics looked at it, we sent it to Bill's Equipment to have it looked at. For some reason, when it's heavily rained,
Uh-huh.
we just don't have a building to put it in, if it's time. But when it gets a heavy rain, it just doesn't want to start for a day until it completely dries out. Can't figure out why.
and so
Other
Mr.
than
Reed,
18 years old, the seats wore out, the wheels wore out, pins, bushings, leaks of oil, so. And a joystick right now for that machine has been ordered for a month, it's still 5 months out. And we're using it, but it kind of has its own thing that it does, and you have people working on it with that equipment. It's kind of dangerous at this point in time.
okay, so Mr. Reed, my question to you is, I get it, it's an old piece of equipment.
Yes,
You know
ma'am.
how, equipment get old, they just got a mind of their own, right? But if we're gonna purchase new equipment and we're gonna set them out in the rain, I mean, does that make sense?
Having to put it, sorry, that equipment's designed for being used outside in the rain. Really speaking, it doesn't affect us.
I'm talking about the storage, where we would store them. So you're telling me, because see, I'm
I
new to
think
this
you're
stuff, so
suggesting,
I'm
Bernice, that-
depending on you to help me.
I don't have a building to put it in. I
Okay,
have
so,
nowhere, I have no dry storage to put it. I have
So-
nowhere to put it.
so equipment like this is usually stored outside.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Actually, if you'd like, if you get time, make an appointment, go down with Rick to Public Works, and he can show you what is stored inside, what's outside, give you an idea.
We've got a lot of equipment stored inside currently, mowers, the weed eaters, the generators, the lift. I mean, we have a lot of stuff that we can store inside that we are able to. We currently do store stuff inside. But some of the stuff like this that should be weather rated, that, unfortunately, just don't have enough coverage for it.
Right, and due to the size too.
Yes, ma'am, it's a large piece of equipment.
Okay. Okay.
It's roughly 6 tons.
Any other questions? Seeing none, is there a motion?
Make a motion to approve item number D8.
Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. If no further questions, we will call the roll.
Councilmember McGuire?
Yes.
Councilmember McCure?
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Item number 9, mall maintenance bid received and in-house. Mark?
Anybody from Fancy Plants here? We, as it says, we put this out to bid. We received one bid from Fancy Plants. And Mayor, you asked us to work up in-house, which we did. Melody broke that down. She can advise further on that.
Okay. All right, let's start out with questions of the in-house stuff and kind of what we've got going on currently versus what we are actually contracting out, so everybody understands what we're looking at.
I have a couple of questions actually concerning this contract bid. First of all, I noticed the company is from Fort B, so they're not part. Cuts per year, it says they're going to be maintained at 3 inches. I always thought that 4 inches was supposed to be the norm. I'm not sure, could somebody answer that question if they're here?
Sure. Please give your name for the record.
Alan Morgan.
with fancy plants. Yes.
Right. 4 inches would be for 410. You don't have to hit it.
One other question I have as far as charges, maintenance. I believe it was something like, you know, a broken sprinkler head. And that's due to your workers, your employees, that you repair that to the city. And I think that that's unfair. But also in your bid offer, it says that if somebody else was a damaged one, you want to charge us $40 to repair that, $40? I think that's a little excessive, so where I'm going at with this is, as well as looking at some of your references, it looks like that you mostly done residential property, is that correct? That's correct. Okay. And so I have no problem with your work, but I'd rather actually see us hire 2 city employees to do the job of equipment, because not only did they do the mall area, but they also would be able to do different areas as well as back up to other locations. If the city manager thinks we can hire 2 employees, I'd rather, especially if we can get people that are in this area here, nothing against your county whatsoever. I don't know anything about your quality work. I'm sure that it's good. But I personally rather give it to the city employees to do the job for my local cost.
Yeah, so if you'll remember how this whole thing came about, is basically there was some constant complaints from council members and some people in town that the level of maintenance on the mall was not up to what they would like to have seen, right? So at the time, this was, I mean, this has probably been going on for 20 years or better, ever since I've been around. And there's always been something to complain about. So, but in recent years, there was a particularly loud couple of voices on the council that really wanted to see something done, and they wanted to see was there a better option. So it was agreed that we would put it out to bid. This is something that's kind of been going around in different areas of cities going out to bid for these sort of things. And I think one of our staff members is from another town that did something similar that I think you guys are actually the winner of that bid. And is it Prosper? Okay, you guys don't hold the contract then? Okay. Okay. But neither here nor there, Prosper did contract out their work, and there was a significant savings to them. So it was assumed at the time that a bid would be quite a bit cheaper, but we didn't know, which is why I asked you guys to come up with your own plan of what it would cost for the staff, and so we get a good reference on both sides. So I guess the question I would have for you, Melody, is why do you suppose that it saves so much money in Prosper, but in Avon Park not so much?
I think probably, so when we initially went out to bid, it was probably 5 years ago. So I'm sure that prices have, you know, gone up for that kind of service. I'm not sure what the square mileage, so the city of Prosper did everything.
I see.
So that saved, you know, a lot of staff hours and, you know, work and time on the equipment and that kind of thing. With the mall, you know, it's a smaller portion, so it's probably, that's probably why it's not as big of a savings.
Okay. So if I remember correctly, their bid came in at, was it 74,852, is that correct? And then our cost was just over 100.
Correct.
Yeah.
For, that was just for the staff, and then there was equipment that we would need to purchase. You know,
Yeah, 49 one time, and then that's going to get amortized over probably what, 10 years.
10 years.
Who cuts the grass right now? Who cuts the grass? Who maintains the mall now?
Our-
Our utilities.
Currently,
Our staff does.
city
Okay,
employees.
so do we not already have mowers? Why would we have to purchase mowers?
Because we do not have enough staff to do it now, because they're on the mall all the time, trying to make that look good, pop for the
Okay,
city,
so we,
that they're not mowing somewhere else, so they would go, or whoever, if we hire 2 more, whoever assigned the mall would need new mowers and a truck and a trailer and that, because the other ones that are currently mowing would be doing right of ways in other areas of the city.
But at the same time, if we hire outside help, they're basically just coming 1 day a week, approximately. So that's about 1 day a week. Or if we had city employees, they would be here 5 days a week, not only to do the law, but to do other jobs and be back up and so on. So
That was
kind
my,
of like not.
Right.
Well, currently with the contract, understanding correctly, it's from sidewalk to sidewalk. Where we hire 2 employees, it would just be sidewalk to sidewalk. It'd be everything here, Dawson Park, train depot, blocks out each side, main road coming in, so you would get a lot more bang for your buck out of hiring a few people that would be able to concentrate on it.
Putting up
Plus the
Christmas tree lights.
weeds, the Christmas lights, maintaining the irrigation constantly. I mean, you're talking 80 hours for 2 guys a week. You know, it's a lot more for small people.
Do we have somebody qualified to do electrical work out there now? Do you need repair work?
Yes, sir.
I have a question. So my question is, the reason why we put in bids was because what? The city of Avon Park was not satisfied with the work that's being done now? So why are we bringing back the 2 employees back to the table if we wasn't satisfied with the city employees' work?
They weren't here prior to this.
Huh?
We're understaffed. We don't have the employees to do what needs to be done today. That's the problem. By hiring 2 more people, we'll be able to concentrate on that. Right now, we got 4 guys that mow the whole entire city. That's everything you see, all the right of ways, easements, everything. Trying to maintain this whole place, all the Christmas lights up, everything that comes in, all the phone calls, lots that are being mowed, that we gotta go out and mow. These 4 guys are trying to do the whole entire city. And that's the problem, is we're too short staffed.
Including because we don't have the inmates, and that's why we'd like to get them under this contract. We have to do 27. I mean, that takes a few days out there, so we're understaffed in a few places in the city, but certainly in the mowing department. And I want to say to them, our staff did tell me they were very nice people and I think that their bid was very reasonable to do that, but for the bang for our buck, 2 more employees in a one time for 8 to 10 years on 1 truck and two people. When I asked for 2 trucks, be 1 truck where 2 of them work out of to take care of the mall and everything associated right off Main Street. It's going to free our people up to be able to hit these right of ways that we get so many complaints on, and rightfully so. We just don't have the staff right now to do it.
So Mark, you think it's better for the 2? I'm just asking your.
Sure, no.
You think it's better for the 2 employee or for us to hire somebody in?
To hire 2 new employees and the equipment that goes with them, 100%, and so does staff. And again, nothing against these people. I think they put in a good bid, but looking out for the best of the city, that will work out a lot better for us.
Like our current pay scale, seeing that made it a lot easier for us to hire employees that work in the city. Well, the increase that we did last year for the employees, it made it easier not only to keep the people we have, but make it easier to hire new people.
Oh, yeah, and I'll give you an example. We just hired a person because you all agreed we could hire somebody that had at least up to step 7 with 7 years experience. We just brought somebody in, and Rick's guys in utilities at the first day they threw him in a hole. Rick said, man, this guy could probably be a boss in no time because he knows what he's doing. And we told him from another city recently. So yes, to answer your question, it's long, but yes, we're receiving more applications and we're getting people with experience because they can make what they should be making.
I just have 1 question. How many people would you bring in to do this job?
Myself.
So there would be 4 people.
How long have you been in, I'm sorry, how long have you been in business?
We've been in business for about a year.
About a year. So do you have any commercial property that you do?
Yes, sir. Yes.
How many clients? Just, estimate.
For
4 commercial clients, but all together, residential and commercial, over 100.
So everything that we are requiring you to do, you could do it in 1 day. Is that what I heard somebody say? 1 day? Once a week?
Once it's back, it's good shape.
Yeah.
Still a lot of weeds on it.
Right.
Once it got back in good standings, it would be once a day.
Prior to doing the bid, we walked the entire mall. So we've laid eyes on everything out there that needs to be done, everything that needs to be cleaned, all the weeds that need to be taken out, mulch that needs to be replaced. So it's not something that we're just looking at blindly and proposing a bid, but, you know, we walk.
And you're gonna spray herbicides and insecticides and all that, and you're gonna take care of did I see that in here, the park for the ants and everything? Did you walk through that?
For the record, you give your
My
name.
name is Kim Barber.
Well, can I just, you said park, were you talking about the mall?
Either parts, either one of the parts.
No, they'll just be doing the mall sidewalk.
Oh, just the mall?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In-house, if we hire two, we'll be doing all that.
Okay, so obviously, I think sum it up pretty simply. The lawn service would focus solely on Main Street. The two in-house employees probably get a little bit broader service, but as you said, that's what we had asked them to bid. So obviously, if they took on more, then the bid would be a little bit higher. My personal feeling is that a lawn care service is probably going to be able to do a better job of the actual cutting, and mowing, because that's all they do, that's all they care about, and it's also their business, and private business, in my opinion, tends to run a little bit better than government business usually. No offense, guys, but I think that the staff does make a very good case that there's probably a lot more things than just mowing that we need to look at, and I think the in-house people are probably going to do the best job for us, what we're looking for.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But if they don't, you can rest assured,
Yeah.
we'll be back here again next year.
You can rest assured that they're gonna do a good job.
Yeah, I agree with that, because I think any outside contractor that comes in and takes care of any part of the city property, you're gonna make it, try to make it like a pet project, because it's something to showcase for the rest of the customers, especially our customers. But I think that maybe for now, I think it did make a great offer. I think the bid was more fair, but I think I'd rather give the city a shot to see if we can hire trained employees to do the job, and maybe we can do 2 or 3 times a month work out there, and just have them come and talk to them 1 day a week. If not, then we need somebody to be back again if we do that. That's my own personal opinion. I just think that I'd like to hire more people for the city, more people for the job. I think you got plenty of work, you got plenty of customers, and I definitely appreciate the offer. I think that I like to hire some questions.
How many hours was the mall maintenance, the in-house analysis, how many hours was that for employees?
It would be 2 full-time employees, so 4,160 hours.
This is based on a 40-hour week.
Any other questions on this? Be looking for a motion. We either have a motion to approve the bid, or we have a motion to approve staff to hire the 2 employees.
I'll make the motion that we go ahead and hire 2 the city employees to do the job at this time.
Do we have a second?
Just if you could repeat the motion. I didn't hear it.
Okay, I'm sorry. I make a motion that we go ahead and hire 2 new employees at the current rate that was presented to us in item number P9, and move forward with that, so that we can have 2 employees hired. Good job.
Mayor, can we add to that motion that also purchase the equipment?
Yes, purchase the equipment that goes with it.
Motion includes purchasing the equipment. Is there a second to that motion? All jump at once, guys.
I'll go ahead and second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further questions? I'm seeing some looks like there's some questions. So if you have questions, please ask them now. Ma'am, do you have a question?
I was just wanting to say a comment that we were told from a resident whenever we were out there.
Okay.
That they were just concerned about how the maintenance was taken care of prior with the city.
Right.
That it wasn't taken care of in the best interest of what the mall should be looking at.
And that's what I brought up before. That's something that we hear constantly, but the situation was we never had people that were working solely on the mall. And that's basically the difference in this is that we have people that are going to be dedicated to the mall. The people we have now, like you said, we have 4 people that mow the entire city and all the right of ways. They're running around, I mean, like crazy. So,
Yeah, currently they have 1 day.
yeah,
On that mall, that's it.
they're doing a lot more than they probably should be doing. And they're also not necessarily professional landscapers. So
It was only a few years ago too that we were actually having people from prison to do the mall also. Right.
yeah,
So
and
that was
that
part
brought
of
its
the
own
problem.
issues as well. But
Yeah, that was the biggest problem that they came with.
And I think at this point, the plan would be if we had the 2 in-house people, that the inmates, when they do come back, they would be taking care of more of the right of ways and highways.
Yeah, so correct, that would free up the other employees to take care of all the other roads that we use by the main office. But regions develop its calls, and places that are going to need that would cut as well, so it would free them up to get things done as well as possible. And so that should be doing not just local.
We'll leave the delicate cutting to the best guys on Main Street.
One more question too, before we take a vote then. The people we hire, will necessarily be people that have previous experience so that they could do similar job as professional people that we have here? Or will we provide them with training to make sure that they do a better job of what's being done now?
I think both. We'll look for people with experience. I just handed out my card to a couple people in case this comes to fruition, but we can't guarantee when we're going to get people with experience or not. But Rick and I already talked. Whoever's assigned there will probably stay there once they can show us that, you know, that the mall is what needs to look the best in the city for all the city residents. So your answer is probably both.
Okay. All right. Any other further questions? Okay. We have a motion and a second, so we'll go ahead and call the roll.
Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Councilmember McCure,
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
motion passed.
All right. Up next, we have item number 10, speak for the Classic Palladium Seed Barn roof bids. Mark, I see your name.
Okay, as your background says, we put this out, the bid for 60 days, received 2 bids. The, for the new ones on council here, I just put in a little background on how this has been going on for years, this seed barn out there, and we've got to do something. We also went behind it, put out a next bid for the restrooms, bathrooms in this, which obviously can't be fixed until there's a new roof on it, which will come to you at the next meeting. But on this, you'll see CLS Roofing, which is there somebody here for them? Okay. And EO Cook, they were going to be on tonight. I don't know if you got anybody on there. You got Aaron on there. Okay, he was going to try to get on our purchasing agent had to go home sick today, and we didn't make the call then until late, but they said they were going to try to get on.
Okay. So we have someone here from CLS, is that right? You in the back, sir? Could you please come up to the microphone? Please give your name and address for the record.
Park, Florida.
Okay. If you could give us a brief overview of the scope of work that will be performed on Seafarm.
Gotcha. So they're gonna put a Duralast system. It's called Duratup.
Mhm.
It's a 50 mil membrane.
Is it a flat roof, I'm assuming?
No, sir. It has a little bit of pitch to it.
Okay.
And they want it right on top of the metal.
On top of the metal?
Yes, sir. Right on top of the metal. Yes, sir.
Is there a insulation package that goes?
Yes, sir. They're
Underneath
gonna
that?
have a total of 3 inches of insulation. It's gonna be a 1/2 inch with the flute. There's a corrugated metal on there now.
That was the concern.
Yes, sir. Yeah, insulation.
And the lifespan on that roof system?
It's gonna have a manufacturer warranty of 15 years, but it's to last between 30 to 35.
I'm a little concerned about that because I know that I wouldn't put a 15-year material roof on my house. I think the minimum even for a residential would be 20, not 25. And for a business, I think that there would be something even more than that. So I don't know why you pick that material, because I know you say it might last 25 or 30 years, but it sounds like it may be insufficient for a building that's going to be out there as long as it's been there now. We waited a long time, like city manager said, to get this fixed, that it's been way overdue. It's caused some damage, it's going to cost the city some money to repair some of the work inside. So I'm looking at some of your references, and most of them look like basically residential or places where you buy supplies. What kind of large buildings and structures and business have you done?
Gotcha, yeah, so we've done a few Dollar Trees, here locally in Sebring, the new one that just opened up across the Chili's.
Okay.
We've done some commercial churches, we've done quite a few, schools in Palm Beach with Duralast systems.
Okay.
So, I don't know if the references are listed, but we have done quite a few commercial properties. And this is a very simple application, it should take no longer than a week. The material is gonna take up to about 60 days to work, so it's a very, very simple application.
And will they be able to keep working while you're doing this?
Say it again, sir?
They'll be able to keep working while you're doing this, am I correct?
Yeah, so the building doesn't have to be, they're gonna keep on as everything goes, and we're gonna put it on while people are working inside the building. So,
As opposed to if you tore the roof off, they'd have to put
yeah,
one.
they'd be out for quite a while, yes, sir.
The bid wasn't terribly descriptive in the EO Cook bid, but were they for tearing the roof off, or were they doing something?
No, it was to first comment on the deputy mayor here. Actually, you had spoke to me on this, and I pulled the scope this morning, and it does say 15-year warranty.
Yeah, they gave us a specification to bid on. And we just met those specifications with the bid as we were asked.
Okay, actually, Rick was at the pre-bid meeting, he may be able to add.
The only thing that I had was gutter, because it wasn't looked at. Like he said, they would be able to do it while they're working, which is during that time, if they're looking at doing this, they're gonna be in full swing out there. With a couple hundred employees, I understand, so that at the time. Right.
Does the roof have metal on it now? though?
Yes, ma'am, it does, it has metal, and it has holes in it.
Why would we
holes,
be
but rounding
switched from
edges.
metal to, I'm assuming this is like a TPO alternative?
Yes, ma'am, it's a recovery system, yes, so it's more, it'll be a lot more cost effective, I guess, because metal skyrocketed, and to change the roof with metal, then you're looking at a lot more expensive price than what was stated.
But we also live in a hurricane
Right.
area as well, and metal
Right,
is
gotcha.
substantially stronger and will last a lot longer. When we go down in system.
Duralast is one of the best systems for flat roofing there is. They're only on commercial properties, as hospitals use them. Dentists, Arby's, all commercial franchises use this material.
So
So
when I-
it's not like a patch job or, anything kind of.
But when I looked up the material, it also comes in like 80 mil, 60 mil.
Yes, ma'am.
What was your reason for choosing the 50?
Like I said, they gave us the specifications to quote, and we went in there and,
So that's what
Kinda
we asked
gave-
for.
yeah, that's what they had.
It was in our scope, and we got our scope from Chop Roofing.
The other mill thicknesses, do they come with a longer warranty?
Other mill thicknesses?
Yeah. So this is a 50 mil.
Yes, sir,
that-
yeah, if you were to do a bigger, yeah, it would come with a longer warranty.
Do you know roughly how long? Whether it's a double, triple, quadruple?
No, probably 10, 15 years if you double the mill, yeah. So 50 mil, the Duratup is a lot stronger than the Duralast.
Mhm.
So Duralast is a lower grade Duralast.
Right.
And Duratup is an upgraded version of the Duralast system.
Mhm.
So it's not the lower tier or anything like that.
Do we know how old that building is?
World War II. They the Second World War II, so.
I know it's a World War II there.
Yeah. The point in asking the question was, to Brittany's point of, the original roof has been there for 80, 90 years, right?
At least,
Yes. So you see how long the old corrugated galvanized steel lasts versus what the Duralast system, even if it lasts twice as long as the manufacturer's warranty, you're still not gonna get that full effect. So if the EO Cook bid was for a new metal deck, you're probably getting more value there than the 15-year vinyl.
Gotcha. We were all specified to bid the same thing. I don't think there was no other bid at all.
Okay,
We all had a
That-
specification.
That's correct.
they called for a roof over, not a tear.
Yes,
I see, I see.
that's why it wasn't bid that way. It was what he bid at, they all bid at the same.
Okay. Do we have, do you happen to know the total number of squares of that roof?
No, sir, I had to go look at the estimate, the bid itself.
Okay.
Yeah, not off the top of my head, I got a lot.
And if there's a lot of damage underneath the metal, does this include replacing any of the rotted?
Yeah,
wood or
so
anything
there's
like that?
a few spots that are rusted that isn't the bid to replace. So we're not gonna go over any rusted metal at all. We're gonna
What
go,
about the wood underneath?
there's no.
There's no wood?
This is commercial, yeah. Yes, there's no wood at all.
As far as the steel structure of the larger structure that the tin actually sits on, it's all in good shape. It's not rotted or rusted out.
Is this the one that we did some structural repairs to a few years ago?
No, sir, that was the one right across from that. That's the one that I worked on contract.
Okay.
Pretty much whatever you find on the roof is included in this bid. Whatever you find, that's what you will repair and it's included in the bid.
Yes, ma'am.
And we've been waiting to get this done for roughly how long?
2014, maybe?
Yep. For a long, long time. So time is of the essence. So it sounds to me like there might be some more questions. Is that right, of the council? Does anybody have anything they want to research or find out?
I wish I was smart enough to ask more questions, but I'm not a roofing expert, so I know, I think most of us probably know trust company's been around for a very long, long time. That's about your company. I do like the fact that you're located in Avon Park. That's something my favorite. I'm just concerned that the difference in pricing, whether it's going to make the difference in the quality, the workmanship, and the quality that's going to last. That's really what I need. And I don't really have the expertise to determine which one way would be better.
The thing about roofing is we have county inspectors. So all the county inspectors hold us to the same standards. So none of the work gets passed if it's not up to standard at all. So the same work you would get from somebody would have to be up to standard to pass code and final inspections, things like that. So
I have
kind of,
no-
go ahead.
I have no doubt of your skills, sir. I'm sure you guys are top notch. I've actually heard of you guys and heard of some successful jobs that you did. Unfortunately, they were both just residential jobs. I know you guys are good. There's no question about that. The question is more of the system itself. It's kind of, what is the thought here? Conversely, and Jerry might be able to help us out, we do have a obligation to get this done and not impede their workflow. Is that right?
Yes.
So this kind of lends itself to this building that we own that we probably wish we didn't own as a whole, right?
Both buildings.
We're only getting a lease payment of virtually zero.
That's not so much. You shouldn't be.
Sure. Yeah. Sure. So yeah, it's always going to be a sense of source of contention for us because we're always going to have to shell out more money for these buildings, but yet we're not going to be able to get any more lease payment for at least what, the next 30 or 50 years, however long that it's really long.
There's 2 more 5-year at least.
Well, and that may be somebody else's problem in the future.
So anyway, we do have an obligation to get it done in a timely manner. So if there's nothing that is of particular importance or a clear view of something that we could potentially get better in a short amount of time, it would be my advice that we go ahead and bite the bullet and move forward so that they can get on with their lives as well as us. So I'll ask the council again, is there anything that they want to research that they think would be germane to this conversation?
What would you say your name was? Benoist?
Anthony Bassett.
Oh, okay. You don't live in Sebring, you live in Avon Park? I mean, your business is Avon Park?
Say that one more
Your
time. I live
business.
in
No.
business, yes, ma'am, yes, see, Avon Park, yes, ma'am.
Oh. I just didn't see where your address was on your invoice, so I wasn't sure. You guys overlooked it?
Payroll 64.
Yeah, we're gonna put a 20-year labor warranty on it. So the manufacturer's gonna do 15 and we do 20, so our last, it'll be good.
Excellent.
I like everything you said. It's just that, there was one thing I think that you should do in the future. If you're gonna put a bid in and you're going up against someone as big as, your competitor, all those different commercials that you named,
Yes, ma'am.
you make sure you put it in the package next time, so you look just as good as they do.
Gotcha. Yes,
Okay.
ma'am. Definitely. I appreciate it.
Good point.
And your references also? Because it looks like a lot of them didn't contact us back.
Nobody contacted me
It
back.
looks like a couple of the ones for CLS really. One didn't work, he didn't, he was not able to give an opinion on your work. I'm just saying, I'm just adding to
Gotcha,
her,
yeah.
maybe you need to.
No, yeah, if I can get some
Reconsider your
specifications, I
references.
can get that, maybe they weren't, notified of the phone call. I did put pretty much, do you know specifically we didn't get back to you by any chance?
It's a public record, we can get it to you if you ask for it.
Okay, yeah, because I wasn't aware that nobody replied out.
And just to add on there, I go off with Councilmember Taylor said, even these ones really, we wouldn't consider as a reference, that you actually did work. So you're talking Dollar Tree and churches,
Right.
some bigger buildings, those are the references really we're looking for.
Yeah, I'll be able to provide those also.
So do
If
we-
need be.
Do we want more time or do we want to make a motion tonight?
I think we need to move forward. I don't think we need to Band-Aid this anymore.
I agree.
I agree.
Is that a motion?
Yeah, let's go ahead and make a motion. I'm gonna make a motion on D10 that we go ahead and approve this.
Approve this bid for
It's for-
CLS construction.
Yes.
All right, so we have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further questions? None, we'll call a roll.
Councilmember McGuire?
Yes.
Councilmember McKenna? Yes. Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I got one question after, but I'm sorry, I forgot that.
Yes, sir.
Comment about how long it take to get the material.
Okay, yeah, so we are between 45 to 60 days on the Duralast, so depending on when we can move forward, probably between 30 to 45, to be honest with you.
Or just material.
As far as the material, sir, the application should take no longer than a week and a half.
Okay.
Yes, sir,
Thank you very much.
appreciate it, thank you.
Item number 11, selection of firm, request for qualification, compilation, comprehensive annual financial reporting. Melody?
Yes, so the city went out for request for qualification for CPA services. We had 2 responses. One was Wicks Brown, who is currently does the CPA work for us now. And the other was Brynjolfsson CPA Services. Brynjolfsson CPA Services put in their RFQ to not exceed $19,480 for his services. Woods Brown did not include a total amount, but we have paid them for 2021 over $90,000 for services. However, they also do a lot of our accounting services. They have somebody on staff that does our payroll and does a lot of our journal entries. The recommendation for staff's recommendation is to go with Brynjolfsson CPA Services. Woods Brown, our audit has been late for the past 4 years. They're very knowledgeable, but they have a hard time getting back when we have questions. And we don't want our audit to be late.
Yep.
Again,
It's been a source of embarrassment for Avon Park for several years, so we would really like to move out of that category and move forward. So you're confident that this new firm will be able to get the job done?
Yes, I've worked with Mike, excuse me, in Foster for 7 years. We were never late. We actually had the audit by March generally. And I've called several of his municipalities that he worked with, and they're all, he's top notch, he's responsive.
And the extra services our staff will be able to handle the journal entries and everything.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
I've also worked with Mike on the whole pension plan, and I can say that one is he's always on time, always very accurate, and I think the best thing is he's able to describe to the layperson exactly what the statistics are and what the numbers mean without making go through the entire report. So I think this is a great choice, a great opportunity for us to pick up somebody who I believe is more than qualified at a great price, and it's proven to me for more than 10 years that we our pension fund. And, to me, it's almost a no-brainer. I think I like working with the guy. He's a great guy. I think that it's a lot better job than saying that.
That's his major, that's all he does is municipalities.
Melanie,
Yes, ma'am.
how long were we with Wick, Brown and Wood?
Oh, I don't know the answer to that.
It was years,
Yes,
Probably decade,
decades,
probably.
and they've always been late? They've
Well,
always
no.
gave us this type of service?
Just in the last few years.
the last 4 years. And the CPA is a really nice guy, but he doesn't return telephone calls. I've had to call his partners a few times, and he's fully aware of our recommendation tonight. Nothing against him, great guy.
Yeah.
But I've heard nothing, but even before Melody got here, heard about Mike, how good he is, and also Mike had told Melody he's been waiting for years for a chance to put an Avon Park. He wants to work for Avon Park.
Wick Brown's been a staple in this community for a very long time. They've provided years and years of very good services to a lot of people, but for whatever reason, the last few years, it's really tapered off as far as Avon Park's concerned, and we really just need reinvigoration.
I
in
think
the
they do
department.
a lot of, excuse me, tax returns, so come tax season,
Yeah.
when our fiscal year ends, they're all up in, the tax season.
Right.
So they don't have an opportunity to work with us.
Sure.
So as I was reading through the information provided, the report was due in September of last year?
So the report is due no later than June 30th of the
Oh.
following year, so
2022.
it would have been 20, so we got our 2019 audit. I'm sorry, 2020 audit in October of 21. And it was due in June.
He don't owe us any money to be reimbursed here?
No, ma'am.
That's what our contract said?
I don't think we actually had a contract
We
with
couldn't
them.
even find an engagement letters.
Mhm.
Well, we'll need one now because the statute requires that they enter into the same public records division that I put on.
So
Well,
could we approve pending the agreement? Any other questions?
Yeah, I got one more. I was looking at, the one that Miss Melanie is suggesting, and memo.
Only questions is you have a first name.
Mike,
Okay.
Said,
bring your
I'm reading where it says the importance clarification. And it pretty much said that this response is based on the preparation of the CAFR, but for the fiscal year ending September 30, 21 and 22. We will likely prepare the basics financial statement only. So if that's all they're doing, who's doing?
So when we went out for RFQ, the RFQ requested the certified annual financial report, which is more in depth and includes, more information. And I'm talking with Mike because it's new for him and he's got to get everything into the system and get it hooked up. It's going to take him a while to get there where he can get that additional information.
Okay.
So I'm assuming staff's gonna take up the gap for that.
Yes, yeah.
Also, the fact that they work with the pensions, they're very aware of the fiduciary responsibility as for the law. They have to do that. I'm willing to make a motion if somebody else has something else to say.
Any other questions? There a motion?
Make a motion to go ahead for the selection of retail some CPA for completion of our comprehensive annual report.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions?
Can you pronounce that name again?
It's a Brynjolfsson, so everything's silent. Brynjolfsson.
We can't pronounce her last name either, so.
Mike B it is.
Mike.
You can say it very well.
All right, is there any other questions? Seeing none, we'll call the roll.
Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Councilmember Zapier,
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
motion passes.
Item number 12, appropriates the city council chambers. Mr. Pugh.
Okay, from the last meeting, it was discussed, Mayor, that you wanted to look at external, in the event we have outflow, where we could go. Mark and I had talked that there was previously, before code enforcement occupied the offices across the way, doing things over there. Well, unfortunately, with the amount of information and privacy data over there, that's not feasible. I got a hold of Tony Bassett or Bassett Electronics and asked for an additional, what would be the quote if we put a 32-inch monitor out in the hallway so that if there were people out there, and he added on additional, I don't remember, the original bid to upgrade the audio video in this room, and that it still came in under $20,000. Mark and I discussed the possibility that if we had to, of looking at the basement conference room and adding some sort of Zoom capabilities and everything down there, because again, we've got no other space anywhere, but we did not get a quote for that, mainly because there's no internet in the basement. And that would have to be completely done by our non-contract IT guy. And again, get a hold of Tony and say, what about this, what about that?
Sure.
But as far as currently the way things sit, the bid that Tony revised just adds on the TV out into the hallway for anybody that's out there conferencing, that they can still listen and hear what's going on without being actually in the room here. So
My only concern is what's the capacity requirements for the hallway? How many people can actually get in there to work 18,000? The reason I'm saying is maybe, it would be better to have an outside TV that's removable. I had that in my other house, so, it's removable, water resistant TV.
Right.
That you could plug in and hang, and then, you really have to limit out there, other than the fact that it's raining, that's going to create a problem, obviously.
well, I think that, Jerry, I think the additional quote, 18 or 18 and a half, whatever it was for the entire package. It was 17 and change just for this room. And then to add the TV and whatever on the outside was maybe another $1,000 on top of that. So that we could put it out here in the hallway, which would only be a few, but we could put one outside because it's not that much more money.
Yeah, they do make waterproof TVs actually, but I wouldn't leave them out there even waterproof, but they do have a quick connect to TV.
Well, if we leave it out there, it'll probably be gone. But
That's true too.
But we could easily do that. I mean, but we're just limited here on where to put people. And like I said, we talked about, and that'd probably be a halfway easy fix. We could at least have some more in the conference room seeing we run Zoom anyways, and it usually works really good, except when the deputy mayor's on it, but. And then it's a hard time.
Well, I got that one back. Okay,
So the considerations are, do we want to add the hallway? Do we want to add a exterior TV? And do we want to explore further Zoom capability in the conference room? Personally, I agree. I don't think the hallway is going to add all that much. It's a very narrow hallway. The outdoor definitely would be a lot more people. It's just going to be a hassle, and you kind of would have to foresee. So as long as it's here, in one of these back rooms or something, we can get it put up quickly. That's one thing.
My recollection is the connection here is not that much. It's the TV that is. So you could conceivably put one inside the hallway. If you want to just have, a little bit of, and it's raining outside. Or if it's not raining, then you can connect it outside and have people out there. You just
Well,
have to-
in the hallway, I thought of that because down at the BOCC, they have one out where people want to go out and talk to somebody or talk on the
Yeah.
phone or something. They can still see what's going on and hey, it's my turn to go in. So,
Sure.
but I mean, we can always do this 18.9, which includes that, and the others won't be that much. We can do that just later on without this as far as exploring down. And we need internet down or Wi-Fi down in the conference room anyways. Every time I'm down there, you can't use your phone. So
The only issue is they have to be close enough to where they can, come in the meeting and speak if they really want to speak on a topic that comes up.
well, if we have Zoom, could they speak on Zoom over there? It's like,
I don't see why not.
or say, hang on, I'll be there in 2 minutes or something.
Yeah. I don't see why not.
I think Zoom helps us a lot.
Sure.
Worry about it too much.
Okay, so do we have anyone who wishes to approve the bid?
I think we need to get this done as quick as possible. I mean, we saw it tonight where we had people here had a problem with calling in, and I've had a problem calling in too, and listening and hearing and the echoes and the delays. So I think the sooner we do this, I'll also work with Tony Bassett before. He does excellent work. He's really easy to work with. So I recommend it. Won't read it. So I'm going to want to go ahead and approve. I would make a motion to provide number P12 with an amount of $18,900.
Would that be also including the
Yes.
connection outside?
Not just going the hallway. Don't worry about that.
All right, so that's the motion. Is there a second?
I see this bid is only good for 30 days. Right?
Yeah, but he'll extend that. And I talked to Tony last week and said that it was going to be brought up tonight, and he didn't have a problem with that. And also, it's not a bid, it is a quote, but we did get one. The only other one, we could only try to get 3. We got one other, and that was well above even increasing us.
We really need to get a second before we discuss it.
I'll
further.
second.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Now, is there any further questions? Anyone? You look like you have a lot of questions. Let me do the right thing, and now let's jump with. Yes, sir. Barry? Mr. Foster.
And your address, please. Barry Foster, Highlands Radio Group, 3750 Highway 27 North, Sebring, Florida. Am I to understand that you're going to be redoing the audio system in the chambers here? Is that correct? That will come as a very welcome addition because it's a challenge hearing some people and hearing like the names of some of these people, and they act like these things are radioactive. They want to stand back here and talk. So if you can get louder so we in the audience can hear and understand, that would be just wonderful. Also, if you want to get something that you can plug into my hearing aid, like we have at church, that would be grand too.
Barry, behave yourself, I'm going to take you.
No, I'm serious now. I know. I'm on tape all the time. But if you can repair the sound, this would be the 4th time they've done it since I've started covering the Avon Park City Council, and it never gets any better.
But I think it'll be the first time that a professional does it.
Negative, sir. I wish I could tell you if that's correct, but I would suggest you go down to Harry Avery down at Circle Theater and see the speakers he has set up, because and some secondary speakers about halfway back for the people in the back of the room would be extremely helpful. I'm glad to see you doing it again. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? Seeing none, we will call the roll.
Councilmember McGuire,
Yes.
Councilmember Bashir,
Yes.
Councilmember Taylor,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Bernard,
Yes,
Mayor Anderson,
Yes.
motion passes.
Thank you very much. Mr. LaBelle, tell us what you've been up to.
I sent this to the city manager and this was an FYI. So, basically, it's pretty self-explanatory. I broke it down to its simplest form, basically six areas that I feel are important. The top one being to me the most important, the self-initiated actions or cases. I don't want you to think that those are all actual code cases where we pull a case number. Majority of those 660, 566 of them are initiated by a code enforcement officer for a non-violation. Not per location, not per violation. So 498, the reactive would be more like somebody coming in for a permit application, somebody calling in a loud noise complaint, some kind of enforcement that is required by a citizen or somebody from council or somebody calling us. Actually, it's gone down quite a bit because of the new law that went into force with the anonymous complaints. No longer can you do those. So I've noticed exponentially the amount of complaints that we're getting because right when we ask them what is their name and where they live, it's pretty much I pretty much heard everything. Then click, phrase, silence. So it has cut that, but I feel very proud of the people that I work with in regards to the 660 self-initiated. I know maybe you can drive around the city and still complain, but what you don't see, I can assure you the city hasn't gotten any worse. I choose to believe it's gotten better. One of the reasons, take that out of the equation of snipe signs, and you see that's 713 snipe signs. For those of you who don't know, snipe signs are the ones that are put out on the city right away that people like want to sell houses real quick, or you have a solar company that dumps a bunch of them on Main Street and up and down 27 in the neighborhoods. Pretty much the second that those go down, they come up and they get put on a right of way that makes them abandoned property. At that point, we snatch them, and the majority of the time we throw them in the garden. So it's drawn some ire from some people, but those things can drive around the county, and it's no pick at the county, but drive around the county, some of the other cities, and all you do is see those signs on the side of it. You don't see them here. And I take a lot of pride in that, and I know the guy that works with me does as well. The magistrate case is 211. That's taken into consideration that we've had some monthly, normally would have once a month. We've had some months that have actually been canceled because of COVID issues, illness issues, the magistrate issue, and obviously, come December 1st, we no longer have a magistrate. So therefore, there's no cases going forward. So you'll see probably in January, February, hopefully by February, we'll be back up and running, but you'll see none. So that is a hindrance. I can tell you we have 2 code officers, clerk, and myself when we're full staff. 10.5 months out of the 12 last year, we had 1 code officer. Okay, that was for whatever reasons, and a lot of it had to do with low pay. Nobody wanted to come here, quite frankly. Nobody wanted to work here. It's a profession. It's not a labor job. So, when you're trying to get people coming in at $12.95, $13 an hour, you're not going to do anybody. So now that we're back up to where we should be, currently we are still 1 down, but that has been advertised. Interviews are forthcoming soon. But like I said, 10.5 out of 12 months, we had 1 person. And of that 1.5, where we had 2 people, 1 guy was trained. So I like to think, the overall 1,158 actions that code enforcement took, I am pretty happy with that. Had we been fully staffed, I truly believe, based on prior, well, at least the 1 month where we had 2 people, I would think that we're probably pushing close to 2,000 cases. So that's a lot. We've had a lot go against us as far as staffing issues, magistrate issues, a misunderstanding of what people think code enforcement can do, and the authority that we really don't have, but people think we do. And but that's it. I there you define staff before I took over. I couldn't define it. I take this very serious because I have nothing to measure last year that what we did the year prior, unless I have some kind of number I can look at and say we need to do better now, or we're maintaining. I have nothing to bring to you. To be honest, so I'm open for if you have any questions on any of these numbers or anything else. Another thing we do that you don't see on here, we pick up shopping carts. It's as stupid as that sounds. We picked up dozens upon dozens of shopping carts on the side of the road. People take them off the lots and just leave them sit there. It doesn't look good. We deal with a lot of the bulk waste issues, that sanitation. There's a lot of falls on that. That's a whole different subject in itself that can be brought forward at a different time. But I think we're doing pretty good and we want to improvement.
Randy, I'll be the first to say it takes a lot of work before you can actually notice a difference in the town. And I have noticed a difference. So I know you're doing a lot. I know you guys are doing a lot. So by all means, keep it up. You're heading in the right direction. So I would just encourage you to keep doing that. Do we have any questions for Randy?
No, great job, thank you.
Anything else?
Can I have one more thing?
Yes.
It has nothing real, well, it does have to do with code, but a lot of people, you know, the interlocal agreement that we have with Highlands County with the building department. I don't know if you're aware, but you know, of the 211, excuse me, 205 permits that we handle. That's just a portion of them because a lot of them come in here and they have no zoning implications. So therefore they go straight to the county. But where I'm going with this is the city receives not a penny from any. So these permits average in $100, give or take. You know, we've just thrown $20,500 to the county towards what they're helping us do with interlocal. So it's kind of nice that they're seeing something. They're not just doing everything gratis since 2000, whenever it was when Eric Longshore and all that took over. But they are receiving the benefit from the city over $20,000 for them to come out for issuing the permit, to the inspection, to re-inspection in the final. So just in case anyone asks why you're doing it for free or why aren't you making any money on it. I don't think we should make any money on permits based on what they do for us. But that would be a discussion later on for council, obviously.
Okay. Anything for Randy? Seeing none. Randy, thank you very much. Keep it up. All right, item number 14. Recommendations, procedures for CDBG loan forgiveness request. Gary?
So at the last meeting, recommend to look into raise the issue that we're going to get inundated with fees like we have forgiveness on liens for code enforcement. These are starting to drop quite a bit now. Obviously, somebody has a mortgage they want to have forgiven.
Right.
And so what are the standards for that? And without standards, how do you justify give it to one person, let alone the next person denying that?
Agreed.
So, I suggest that we have a policy, and I put this together, I'll say we are plowing new ground. I looked for something somewhere, you know, cities on the new code that might have done this. I couldn't find anything close. So we'll probably have to tweak it, and I will want to get a waiver from a firm that actually does HIPAA work as opposed to doing it myself, which is might start knowing about HIPAA. And for me to run it, it'd probably be cheaper for us to get another attorney to do it, all the time. So, this is the policy. Anticipate we'll pass it tonight, so I can draft on it. But I would like you to look at it closely and make any changes that you'd like to see. And so we can bring it up at the next meeting and try and bring it up. I know we have some people that are waiting to do this, although they're not paying anything in interest anyway. They're not paying mortgages, so it's not like a critical thing, but at some point they'll want to know what they can do with regard to when the family member is not capable of taking care of the house.
Okay.
So.
Do we have any questions for Jerry at this point? Anyone? All right, so is it intended for us to put this over and bring it up at our next meeting then?
Yes.
Okay. Everyone read it closely, think about it, how you'd like to handle these cases as they come in. This would be exactly the case of, was it our last meeting we had? Right. So as you can see, those types of things can be a little bit awkward, a lot of questions that get asked. Just make sure that everything has a nice set procedure to go by.
Well, I can't even see how somebody could get a mortgage without knowing, what the hardship is.
Sure.
And so, but I think, I'd be more comfortable with that. We would do this. So,
All right, moving on to city manager. We've kept some fellows in green back there waiting long enough.
It's three of them. They're all here. Councilmember Taylor sent me 3 well-written letters that I received on Friday, I think it was. And they were in reference to some complaints she's getting, some things she sees. One of them involves, and I'll put them in the official agenda packet, but 2- and 3-wheel motorbikes terrorizing residents of Avon Park, and I forward these on to Major Hood, so they're well aware of it, and it's true. The other one was loud music at Helmut Cray and Delaney Avenue, which spoke about New Year's Eve and dealing with one of the sergeants and sheriff's office in that. And then the third one was down what I call the old beachfront area about noise and other things going on down there. And I forwarded those to the major. I asked the council member if she was good for me to do that and have the sheriff's office come in and talk. Some of the noise may involve Randy as well, but most of this at night, so involve the sheriff's office. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Major Hood.
Oh, we got McCann. New Year's resolution was to throw a Santa Claus beers. All right.
Jim again, Highlands County Sheriff's Office. So, Mr. Strader, I don't know what everything you're talking about is for you. But if there's something you'd like me to specifically address, I'd be more than happy to do that. So,
I think the council member probably got some questions.
Yes, sir. Let's start with the 2- and 3-wheelers on the south side of Avon Park that's terrorizing the residents.
sure. So, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead. Before I became a councilor and even after, the residents of Avon Park is tired of it, they're sick of it, and they feel as though your deputies are not doing their job. They are going into people's yards when they're running from the cops. They're riding at night with no lights on, and you can't see them. You just hear a humming sound, and before you know it, they boom in your face. They are afraid that someone is going to get hurt. I talked to Mark and I witnessed, I live at 1263 Memorial. Well, I don't really live there. That's my home. I'm rehabbing. I happen to be standing in my home and on the corner of Cornell and 17 and Memorial, like I was telling Mark, I looking out my window and here they come. I've seen them before. So 20 of them. They get to the stop sign. A deputy's car is coming from 17 headed towards crossing over Cornell. So they get to the stop sign, they don't see the deputy come, but I can see him from where I'm standing. And boy, they just scatter in all directions. I mean, just stop traffic. Traffic didn't know what to do. I mean, they're on the back wheel, they just riding off, and deputies just sat there and look at it. I get it, I get it. There's no chasing, because that's gonna make it worse. But something is gonna have to be done. Residents are complaining that when the deputy do arrive on the scene, because somebody finally decided to call, they'll talk to them. They'll settle down for 30 minutes to an hour or two, and they're back at it. So it's at worst, even at night. It's, you have to witness it yourself.
Sure. So I can speak to the floor to some degree, and it's a habitual problem throughout the county. Even in my own neighborhood, it's a habitual problem. It's very frustrating for both us as well as the people who live there. Understand that. I can tell you as a resident, it's very frustrating to me. So moving forward, you stand here and do excuses. I've asked Lieutenant Tyson to come here with me tonight so he can hear firsthand some of the issues that they're having on the south side. And as you know, Lieutenant Tyson is tasked with some of the part communities, problems and their issues. Formerly, I had a problem with some of the four-wheelers on the south side in particular, where personnel assigned to the community policing unit had identified a bunch of these kids, towed their four-wheelers, and dressed them. You're 100% correct. Traditional enforcement is not going to be the way to catch these kids. However, we do have some strategies which we can employ to start identifying them with cameras and the like. So, Lieutenant Tyson and I will begin work this week on dealing with some of the four-wheel issues on the south side.
Not just the four-wheelers, the two-wheelers too, right?
Well, sure.
Because reason why I said is I witnessed 10 and 11-year-olds on Christmas Day. They're getting kids to join in with them. It's gotten bad.
I know, man. You know, I've seen it myself. I know we've tried to chase them. I've seen them run down 27.
I've seen it right down.
I've seen them run down Main Street, and don't think the deputies would love to run them until the tires came off. But we're just not going to chase them for a myriad of reasons. I think you understand. Particularly some 11-year-old on a four-wheeler, God forbid there was a tragedy and we're chasing him. You know, I don't know the liability the sheriff's going to incur. However, the guy that was chasing is going to have to do that for the rest of his life. So I understand completely. Don't stand up here and give you excuses. We'll work together this coming week with some additional personnel, and we'll come up with some strategies to address some of the four-wheelers.
And clean it up.
110%. So we parlay into the noise ordinance issue,
Yes,
the
sir.
problem that you had.
Which one you're talking
So-
about? Which one particular?
So I've listened to your calls.
Mhm.
I'll tell you when you call, and I've got to apologize to you. You know, my own wife is a dispatcher, and I will tell you, as Mr. Schrader will, Mr. Bell, and the gentleman back there, they take not only from us, but certain people that call it. Not that you were polite, I don't mean to imply that whatsoever. But you know, they have a tendency to these persons calling again. So it's not lost on me how challenging the job is. What you need to do, I'll give you my cell phone number after the adjourn tonight, so you can call me directly if you have a problem.
Yes, sir.
But what I would ask you to do is sometime before your tenure is up, is to go on a ride along with the shift commander and watch them. So you can get a little bit of a global perspective as how things are run. So the operator that you speak to on the phone is not the one that's calling the shots. The watch commander is who's calling the shots out the entire county. That includes the city of Avon Park. And the watch commander that was working on New Year's Eve was Lieutenant Smith, who's in the back of the room as well. On the right side, who's happy to be here.
Appreciate that.
So on New Year's Eve, they answered 248 calls for service, and 80 something was with the city. And we probably had a staff of anywhere from 12 to 14 on Christmas Eve, DUI people and whatnot that were out. So they, on average, each of them worked probably just under 20 calls for service. That was only between 4 and 4. So they were busy, and at some point or another, he made a decision to prioritize what we were going to. And that's why there was a delay. However, you immediately need to call and ask for the supervisor. If you don't like the answer that you're given from the operator who talks to you on the phone, you need to call and ask the supervisor. Because the supervisor, is the one who can affect change.
Well, I thought I did, Major.
So
And I got Sergeant Jones. I assume he was a supervisor because that's who they gave me.
he was, and I'm sorry your experience was within that months. However, the lieutenant, the launch commander, is the big boss that's out. There's one on every ship for the most part, barring, dealing with COVID issues like everything else. It's been pretty healthy thus far. So that's what I would strongly encourage you to do should you have a problem again, such as this one. But moving forward, we'll say if you're giving you excuses. I'm going to tell you what we've had done today is I've had the analysts run who are the greatest violators in the city of Avon Park from October. So we will sit down and strategically begin to address them individually moving forward, and then we get treated with zero tolerance. While I bring that up, and I think Mr. Burr maybe can speak to it, I understand, have we established a fine schedule, or are we still, I understood from our attorney today, the fine schedule we were waiting on y'all to get.
I thought that had been done, Randy.
It's not the fine schedule they're waiting on. They're waiting on the actual citation, from what I understand. Without the citation, I've spoken with Major Hood. Since we don't have the citations yet, it's kind of been put on hold because we had the one issue that happened where the sheriff's office did write a citation on a noise ordinance, only to turn into nobody knows where the money's supposed to go and so forth. So yes, myself and Darren have talked, and we are waiting for. We had that meeting, and we're waiting on the citation. So we have a citation, and we set the fee schedule. So they mirror our fee schedule. So they're not writing something that's not in line with ours.
But we had the county attorney and I worked on, the sheriff's department attorney and I worked on a computerized version of that. I thought that you guys were able to use, but I will go ahead and put together a written one.
I think we've addressed the logistical issue we had with our software. However, I think Mr. Lavelle characterized the issue on the back end of the fine.
Yeah, there was an issue. There was an issue with the fine, but there was an issue as Captain McGann on. I think you have a checkbox where it goes to the county or the city of Avon Park. And I think in that particular case, it was checked inaccurately. I don't know how to speak that.
So I can put together a paper one for you.
Yeah, I think after talking with Darren, we needed the citation process in effect before they were able to do their job as far as issuing citations.
Has that citation format ordinance ever passed?
No, you and I spoke, I don't know. It was supposed to be brought in front of city council for, I guess, 2 readings to have it.
Right, well, we just need to know if you all agree with the fine levels and everything with those.
So I'll get Mr. Roberts to call sometime this week, and maybe I can work that out. Sure. We'll move forward. I said I probably have about 8 pages of the city of Avon Park. So first, try to be proactive. First to call. Sorry, all this. Proactive. We'll reach out and speak to some of these people that it's going to be zero tolerance.
Major, I have another question.
So I appreciate you promoting me. I believe in Major Taylor. Major
I'm
Hood in the
sorry,
back
Captain.
with love for me
I'm
to get
sorry,
promoted.
Captain. I'm so sorry.
You got me up one.
I'm ex-military and I don't usually get my rank misconstrued, so forgive me. So the question is, who gave the order that the noise would not stop on New Year's Eve until 2 o'clock?
So that would have came from the watch commander. I don't
Okay.
know that- So it's not fair to say it was specific to your situation.
Mhm.
That went out across the county. So
Why?
we did not go because we were going prior to calls.
I guess I'm a little confused, so help me out. Maybe Mark, or maybe you can help me
Sure.
out. Do we not have a city ordinance?
We do,
Uh-huh.
however, part of the watch commander's role as a managerial is to ensure the efficient delivery of services throughout 1,000 square miles.
Uh-huh.
So the watch commander has been empowered both by our general order and both by authority of the sheriff to adequately manage our resources to go to those things that are of priority. So there are a lot of things that are going to outweigh going to a noise issue. I know that affects quality of life, but we're going to domestic violence calls, we're going to robbery calls, we're going to traffic crashes and injuries. Deputies backing up other deputies that are in the middle of DUI arrests on a particular night. So the watch commander, historically, what happens on a holiday weekend is we get inundated with non-priority calls such as fireworks and noise. And I'm not legitimizing those things as okay. However, part of what our expectation is from the watch commander is for him or her to make the decisions to use our resources in the best way. And I can't stand up here in front of you and tell you that I disagree with watch commander. He made decisions in real time, which was in the best interest for everybody that lives in the county.
No, it just seems to me that the order was made, I don't know, before you even knew you was gonna have emergencies for the night.
Why?
That's what I'm saying, because when I called at 12 o'clock midnight, I was told that the order has been given that no one will go out until 2 o'clock in the morning. So quite naturally, it makes me think that that order had been given out way before.
And it probably was, knowing historically what we do. We function in a world that's possible. It's not plausible. It may not be plausible for you to understand what I'm telling you in the context of, well, how did you know? Well, it's certainly possible. And this isn't a perfect science. And we always have to defer to caution. So I think the conservative use of our resources, i.e. personnel, it's in the best interest of us delivering services to priority calls.
And I wholeheartedly
But-
agree with you, Captain.
But I will say this,
Mhm.
when the sergeant spoke to you, and if he had the availability to do that, the sergeant should have got somebody or went out there himself to go do it.
Here's the issue I'm having with what you're saying, okay?
Mhm.
This happens all the time, not just New Year's Eve. This happens all the time. You can go outside any room in the south side and it's booming. And no one seems to be doing anything about it. No one. So it's just not New Year's Eve and that you was busy and you had emergency calls. This happens all the time, not on what Mark called Old Council and Delaney, and what I refer to as Hal McRae and Delaney. This happens over here on Garrett Road as well. It's just going on all the time, and no one seems to be caring about the ordinance or the people that has been putting up with it for years.
So ma'am, I don't know that that's entirely fair, and it's very difficult for me if I'm not standing up here. I serve as.
What part, Captain?
What you just said in its entirety, that nobody cares, and this is a habitual problem that nobody cares to do anything about. We service probably 102,000 people, and I average anywhere from 6,500 to 8,200 calls for service a month. So anywhere from 78 on the low end to 86,000+ calls for service a month. We do get pretty busy, and unfortunately, things are prioritized, and 110%. Holidays, are they traditionally and historically more busy with noise type complaints than would be your normal run-of-the-mill day?
Residents don't care about that, Captain. They feel like they pay taxes.
Well, maybe it's
They're a
not-
resident, they pay taxes,
It's not
and
a
you
reality.
should, your force or whatever, should respond to the calls, if not on New Year's, 4th of July. It's Captain, I'm just saying, something is gonna have to be done. Something's gonna have to be done.
I don't want you to misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not telling you that, we're not coming because a decision was made, we're speaking about one specific incident. For you to ask me to stand up here and defend 365 days a year, and what you're telling me is happening every night on the south side, there's no way that I can
I'm
plausibly.
not saying it's happening every night, Captain, but maybe, you should get in your cruiser on Friday through Sunday. You should get in your cruiser and you should go on the south side and hear it for yourself.
I've spent many shifts.
You don't hear it?
Yeah, so to get to the point here, I think that the ordinance that we were talking about and the fine schedule, that hasn't actually been in place up to right now, so people haven't been able to be issued fines right now.
We have no fines here.
Okay, so if we get that in place and people start getting handed tickets, I can guarantee you that will affect their life in such a way they probably don't want to do it.
Certainly.
So we're gonna do everything that we can do to get that in place. And as far as the back and forth and the specific questions that Ms. Taylor has, I would encourage you to reach out to us again privately, so that you guys can have a more in-depth conversation and hopefully come to a greater understanding.
Yeah, by all means, before we adjourn here tonight, I'll give you my cell phone number and sit down in the sheriff's office or wherever you like. Some specific issues, and if you have a problem moving forward, call me personally every day.
Yes, sir.
Kevin, again, we certainly appreciate your time, sir. We appreciate all your guys' time. You guys are doing a fantastic job. And we thank you for all the service that you do for us.
Hey, give me away there, just add, I mean, no better than that. You seen it, you sent me an email earlier about the Iron Sky.
And so, we've dealt with.
No, it sent me, we've had some criminal mischief happening over in a park across the road and on Main Street. So if you see there, I call her Eye in the Sky, you're probably seeing it down the mall, and that it's gonna be deployed over here in case someone asks you, that's why. We had some good criminal mischief on the new restrooms that we taxpayers paid to fix up, and they did a lot to the Christmas ornaments on the mall, which the sheriff's office doing the best they can between calls. And just to add on what he said, that guy spent his whole 25 years in road patrol, couldn't get out of it, so he's working more midnight shifts than I dreamed of, and I work enough of them, so. But with her, and I pass on, we all know the ATVs, even the golf carts are out of control, they're going down Main Street and that, but it's up where I live, it's where you live, as I told her. Before I retired, cops in Miami were telling us they're bad down there, so we appreciate everything you guys can do. We appreciate everything you're doing, you're serving up here is doing a good job too.
Anything you need from the city as far as issuing different types of fines or anything the council needs to hear to, up the ante a little bit, put a harsher penalty by all means. I mean, we'd like to hear it. So anything we can do. All right.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, sir. Mark, anything else?
Just one, FAM, because everybody wants that brought up, but, I will have more information for you, hopefully at our next meeting. Jerry and I and outside counsel and Lowell are waiting for, in fact, I sent David Bernard, our outside counsel, an email before 5 o'clock and asked him if FAA has got back with them, because we're supposed to be having a Zoom meeting in January. So hopefully we'll have it, I'll have more information for you.
Very good.
Because I do know fans been reaching out to somebody because I've got.
I actually, if you don't mind, would like to have something put on the agenda for the possible vote. Next meeting, it's all over a year. I think some of the council members have updated what's going on. I think that we've gone through a long time of making changes and adjustments, and the last time I talked to Walter, everything seemed to be fine. I don't really see any problem. I actually think the only problem with the FAA is they're actually waiting for us to make a move, because we like the project of the state and country. So I'm willing to take the risk and ask you to put it on the agenda for a possible vote, whether we should move forward with it, so that maybe I'll make the FAA make a comment before or after, but I think there's no reason for us to delay. I think we've gone over this long enough, and I think that most of the council members are aware of what the situation would be, or want to make a vote one way or the other. And so I do like to have a place on the agenda for possible vote. Now, unless they want to come and have a reason, not to vote.
I would prefer to go by their recommendation. Because in the long run, if you come back and tell us a big way. They're the experts in that area.
Well, I understand that, but also last time I talked to Lowe, this got that done for 3 or 4 months because the way there's some communication from the FAA, according to what Mark goes to the last meeting, we called somebody and Orlando, and they basically didn't want to basically make his comments or touch it. And I think that that's just I just think it's been delayed long enough. I think we know what we want to do, what choice we need to go, and I think it's time for us to make a vote. And I think if we let the FAA know that we're going to put it on there, let the attorney know we're going to do it, unless they come some other direction for us not to, then I'd like to be able to do more of that.
Yeah, so, I mean, we got a lot of time invested in waiting for the FAA to give us an answer. So did I miss something that the FAA is not going to give us an answer, or?
No. As I told, I think it was last meeting when I told you that your outside counsel had got a name to get a hold of, he got a hold of a person, and they're gonna set up a Zoom interview or Zoom meeting for Gary and I and our 2 outside counsel, and then talk. Hopefully, I'm hoping they'll get back to them this week, but.
Our outside counsel and the FAA are going to.
Well, and Jerry and I'll be on a Zoom meeting with them. They want to.
With the FAA?
Correct.
Okay. And you think that's gonna happen sometime in January?
They said yes in January. They were all pretty much gone during December, and they told us it'd be the first part of January. Today's the 10th, so I sent David, CC, Jerry, and Joel, and asked if he heard anything, and let them know that I have been out and about. And get moved.
Okay, I mean, if they told you that it would be in January, I think we should at least give them the end of January and give us an answer, just because it would save us so much potential issues if they would just issue an answer.
I think that from this meeting, then we'll have, as Jerry said, 2 experts, nationally recognized experts in this, who will be able to come forward and let you know exactly what's going on.
Yeah. So what about the first meeting in February?
I'm good with that.
Okay. And in that meeting, regardless of what's actually on the agenda, no matter what, we need our outside counsel to give us an update. As far as actually, voting on something, we would be voting on a agreement, so chances are the council is going to have to say, this is the direction we want to go, and this is how we need to word it, or whatever. And an actual agreement would have to be written and approved.
Yeah, well, that is ordinance. Sure.
Okay. Anything else to add to that?
That's it.
Any other questions? Anything for the good of the city? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, please.
Seeing no opposition, we are adjourned.